All right. Hello. What's going on? Race Brain podcast. Very special episode. Today we have Bracken Crocker, as always. Jack Bowers here, sleepy, which is typical. And introducing special guest, owner of CrossFit 414, writer at Hybrid Fitness Media. So really anything that you hear that you read that sounds like intelligent, this is your source. A 6133 Hyrox pro athlete, 5810 in Spain.
Oh.
The best hybrid athlete in the greater Milwaukee area, the Debo of DecaFit, Marcus Wallace. Marcus, what's up, dude?
What is the Debo? I heard that before. I don't know the Debo reference.
You ever seen the movie Friday?
Have you seen
maybe a long time ago.
Well, go do some homework. Watch Friday.
All right. That will be
and then
my
understand that you've Debo'd me in this situation.
It's positive.
For you.
I had my own bio written out, but you hit most of my points.
What'd I miss?
You forgot Race Brain, hybrid short course world record holder.
That's true. Yeah. That is true. What's your time? 30 flat?
I beat Lauren Weeks. I know that.
That's for sure. And
that's low hanging fruit.
And yeah, 1-0 in Deca style head to head workouts. I don't know what we would call it.
The Debo.
I did have a prop up here, but you can't see it.
Is it my ram?
There's your ram.
He kept her. He said, "You can go," but she stays with me.
That's the equivalent of taking his chain. See?
Yep.
In that like empty room, just one empty room with a ram.
He said, "Yeah, come back and get it anytime."
And you would never show your face ever again.
Nope. I'm gonna come back with a whole group of friends to try to get that ram back.
Red.
Kent, what are you doing? You want to hang out? We got to go pick something up.
Our other guest today, owner of Elevate Hybrid. Did he change it to hybrid or just Elevate Fitness?
Elevate Interval Fitness.
Interval, that's the piece. I knew there was a middle piece there. In Washington, D.C., entrepreneur of a brand new, can we pitch this? Hard seltzer. You can recover. What's the tagline on that thing?
Celebrate your wins.
I like it. It lands.
It is. We are 5% ABV, 7 grams of protein, and more than double the electrolytes of Gatorade. And it tastes amazing, which is incredible.
So is it just a net zero? All that good stuff cancels out the fact that the alcohol is going to give you crappy sleep afterwards. Is that what we're doing?
I mean, at 5% ABV, you're not really doing any damage any more than like you would have a beer after a race or something like that.
If you have 10 of them, though, 70 grams, like half your.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend 10 of them, but
what are we even doing here?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
I don't know. I think just 70 grams of protein, you'd be loaded up on your. You'd be loaded up on your sodium and potassium and magnesium for sure at that point.
What's the one that's not an calcium? Marcus, you got this for me?
Manganese.
Magnesium?
Manganese.
Well, magnesium.
So can I pop these in my hydration pack? What are we looking at here?
They probably would be good for ultra stuff.
I just crack the can and drink them as it is, but
because I'm going to DNF either way. Is this going to enhance my experience?
Yeah, I think it would absolutely enhance your experience. But yeah, it depends. Are you more into pineapple or are you more into the wild berry? That's the real
question. Be a wild berry.
These are going to be sold in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, guys. So hit me up.
Generally, when it comes to seltzers, my next pick is always going to be whatever the opposite of what I just had. Like one seltzer of any flavor for me is like enough. So I'll rotate until I get at least, 49 grams of protein.
I'll do whatever comes in like a 32 ounce. I want a silo in my hand.
These are 12-ounce leaks, so you drink 3 of them, you'll be at 36.
If you could make like a 40 ouncer. Post game 40 hands.
I have a couple kegs of it as well. So
now we're
hit me up if you need a keg of post game seltzer.
The post game got me off my intro. 2023 Hyrox North American champion and 15th place finisher at the Hyrox World Championship.
Oh, you did me dirty.
Hey, you were in the game. You were out there. That's one of those things.
you say finisher? Just say finisher.
Elite 15 participant. That's one of those
best trier in Manchester.
Yeah, you did win the best trier award. That's nice. It. Yeah.
Spirit of the worlds or something.
Whatever that was. Congratulations.
That's how I introed Hunter when we live streamed the North American Championships.
You said 4th place.
I only listed his world championships where he didn't win. Let's kick this out strong.
Gonna get him real fired up. See what comes out of that mouth. And he delivered.
It backfired. or worked, depending on your strategy.
All right, fellas. Today we are here. Very special episode. We're going to have a debate. We have talked on this platform ad nauseum about how Hyrox could potentially change what they've been doing. It doesn't seem like they're going to do any of the things that we've been talking about. But David, you've been outspoken about some methods that you have. Marcus, you had an article that was posted on Hybrid Fitness Media about a suggestion on your end. Bracken is prepared. He sees things from all angles. 3D chess, I believe, is what 4D chess is what BK and
scent and taste.
And Jack is simply awake, which is
I'm awake.
Outstanding. Awake, and we can hear him. Jack, what's up?
Yeah.
What's up with the
knee?
I
was gonna say I usually have it up here. That's what I do. But anyway, we're Rich.
How's your knee? How was it in the canoe?
I did as little as possible to risk it. Not allowed to like lift coolers and stuff off the ground, so I was kind of like a bum for once. So
nice.
It was a weird trip. I didn't do a whole lot, but I guess that's sort of what you need to do on a float sometimes.
It's kind of the point, man. Congrats.
Yeah. No injuries.
So we're going to give everybody a set amount of time. Okay, so I've never been in a proper debate. Marcus, you are definitely a jock, but you certainly have some nerd in there. Were you in debate club?
Definitely not in debate club.
I could see Magida being like asked to not be in debate club anymore.
It's not my damn pit bull. Bracken's over here. He's the master debater of the group. So we'll let, Bracken take over there.
Can I get that as a badge? Like up in the corner of the screen?
Master debater.
You change your name?
Yeah, I don't know. I
think here to do work.
Do the ticker, Rich. Put that.
Ever since we had to change our platform because of one co-host, we got no tickers anymore.
Where's the soil issues anymore? Yeah.
No more soil issues. So we're going to go through. We're going to give everybody specific time to kind of pitch their idea. Marcus and David, you guys should go first. I have the wheel of names up, but Marcus, you want to just kick us off?
Yeah.
I'll kick it off.
Whoa, Marcus! He put you on the spot. He's testing you. The correct answer.
I texted Rich and told him I want to go first. So
that's fine. But the correct answer is we never forsake the wheel of names.
All right, let's pull it.
Even
up.
if we put only Marcus's name in there.
Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. Good call.
Rich is so picking third.
Thank you for keeping the integrity of this. Everybody see this?
See it.
All right, we're spinning.
Marcus, you can go no matter what. But
yeah.
Look at that.
Protocol must be followed.
Wow.
Look at that.
Boom.
God wills it.
Delivers.
This is meant to be.
There's no way to cheat this. You didn't hit space bar to stop it on his name or anything.
That might be on the premium version.
It's a free app.
We ain't premium out here.
I'm not seeing any ads for once though.
Wow.
It's done its thing. All right, so we'll give a specific amount of time, or we'll just let you pitch the whole thing, and then uninterrupted, give us the whole deal. Then you're gonna have to defend it. We'll have questions for you after you're done pitching, and then we'll move on. I guess I'll time we'll get how much time is enough time to defend panel? What do you think? 10 minutes? Because these conversations could probably go. So after Marcus is done pitching.
Yeah. I just don't want one person because we'll be picking it apart and then just that kind of ruins someone else's pitch later on. So maybe if we definitely put a shorter time limit. So yeah, 10 seems reasonable.
10 minutes panel?
Sure.
Sounds good to me.
It's not going to end up as 10, but
let's see what happens.
No, it won't take 10.
We usually we're not short-winded here. So.
Can you let him talk?
All right, Marcus, what do you got? Give it to us.
Let's go. This is the 2023-24 qualification system presented by Hybrid Fitness Media. There's my plug.
Shout outs. Matt will be happy.
Biases. I'm American. So yes, we do not have the European centric qualification system here. Also bias. I classified myself after last season as being a sub elite. So trying to break into that next rank. So some of them, it's more opportunities, I would say, for people who are not in the elite rankings already to at least race some sort of meaningful race outside of basically just signing up for the same race time and again, which is sort of what it's looking like it might sort of become. Problems to solve. I had a list of them. Number one, course variance. We don't need to get into that, but I believe even Hyrox has acknowledged the course variance. So I think that should be part of any qualifying system. Limited number of competitors, both within the Elite 15, so maybe expanding that number of people that will be in it. Limited opportunities within the regions. So for example, I know in the fall schedule right now, there's 14 European races and 4 in America, 4 in Asia Pacific, and then the 1 in Dubai. I don't know how you want to classify that. So obviously that is quite a difference. And then, just another problem to solve, just trying to grow the sport within a region. So like the 2 new races in Australia, I'm sure it would be cool for them to have some sort of representation at these races. Who knows what will happen with those, but obviously it's a big sporting nation. So trying to grow it within there, any new markets that pop up. And then I also wanted to balance it with some of the wishes from Hyrox I've seen when they've talked about qualifying. I know they've it seems like they've established this major system as a way for elite athletes to have more opportunity to win prizes, gain money, and then broadcast potential. I think the system I have, it might need some changes, but it would be able to be broadcast in sort of that grid style. Although I think we could also debate if that's needed outside of like the World Championships. Is that a good setup?
Knock it down now. Set up now.
All right, let's go. All right, so for this process, each major, if that's what we're calling them, would have a set cutoff date at which point the invitations would be extended. So obviously each major could be different, but I think they should clearly communicate that and maybe not have it within a week or two of what that next race would be. So tier 1 qualifiers would be just the straight up Elite 15, which is pretty much what the Elite 15 is now, just top 15 times worldwide. So all of those 15, if they're in the 15 ranking at that time, would get the invite to that next major. Past that, tier 2 would be the regional Elite 15, which would be the top 15 times from any race within that region. And then, so basically, if you're in America, there's those 4 American fall races. If there was a race in America, a major in January, it would be top 15 times amongst those 4 races. And then there would be no roll downs past that. So at a maximum, it would be 30 people invited, but I think it would probably end up being more like 20 to 25. There would be people that were in both tier 1 and tier 2. So they would obviously only get that one invite. And then obviously people might not be coming if they're in the Elite 15 worldwide, but it's a race in America. They might not want to come across the pond. So that would be the process. I had a couple notes for future. I think it would be, I'm not sure all the different Hyrox franchises, but I think you get eventually also to a spot where they elect who they send to the World Championships. So the Hyrox US, the Hyrox will tell them you're going to get 5 spots this year, and they could eventually come up with that. But we could also talk about that later as sort of future. Yeah. So I guess that's the meat of it.
All right, let's open it up for questions. Who has questions for Marcus Wallace?
All right, do comments count?
Comments can count. Let's just talk. Let's just talk.
I like a lot about it. I think one of the things that's nice is that you keep their Elite 15 framework when they argue that what they want is the best 15 athletes. They said they want the best athletes at every race. And this gives them their wish list, because I think Hyrox is under the impression that the fastest 15 times are the best 15 people, regardless of what the courses were. But it also does a nice job of doing one of the things that I've been interested in doing, which is creating more of a regionalized racing circuit as well, where like I feel often that Hyrox is in such a rush to get to the postseason that they forget that they have to play the regular season first. And so like this idea of guys having to race on their home turf, putting up times there, giving themselves a shot within their region, and then getting a shot to at least run their regional championship if they could get into a top 25 or 30 time. Like, yeah, I think when you talk about the depth of sport right now, you get to about 30 deep, you know, like when you're at 15 deep, you might miss some people that deserve to be there. Maybe they were hurt. Maybe they're coming back from injury. Maybe they're still developing and they're about to make the jump. But with 30 guys, you really have all the players you need. So Marcus, I think it's actually a really cool plan.
Yeah. And then also the regional race, I think could be pretty cool, even in Europe. Like, so right now there's 14 European races. So in Spain and Italy there's just for the fall, there are 5 races. The UK has 3 races, but obviously it's a huge market. And then 6 in sort of the Nordic, Germany and Poland. I was also thinking it could be cool, you know, so those people, they get their regional Elite 15, but it actually could be composed of like the top 5 from all the races in Spain and Italy, the top 5 from all the races in the UK, the top 5 from the Nordic, Germany, Poland region. So then you have also that sort of regional representation. So it's even brought down to another level. So
That's really dope.
Yes.
How does this qualify athletes for Worlds? Did I miss that?
I did. I figured if they want to stick with their same thing, it could still be the 3 from any of the majors. The only thought I had was maybe extending that field then past the 15, maybe a slightly larger field for the Worlds.
And how many regions are you referring to? Because Hyrox made in their pitch that they're really at like 3/4 regions at this point.
If you consider APAC 1, or are they considering Australia and Asia 2?
I wanted to consider them 1, but I think logistically, geographically, it makes sense to consider them 2 regions. And especially next year, as you look towards next year, like I anticipate you'll probably see 8 or 10 races in Australia alone next year.
That's so massive to travel. You have to do it as 2 regions.
Yeah.
I sort of figured this would be something that could flow from year to year as well. So now it's
you have
number as long as, yes. So it will grow. Maybe this year Australia gets a guaranteed 1 competitor, and then as that market grows, then they'll adjust it.
So you were saying 20 to 30 people invited. What does that mean?
So because there would be that, so the Elite 15, top 15 times worldwide get the invite.
To what?
Then that regional to this, whatever that major would be at that point.
So how do you handle those then?
Major, yeah.
Are you doing a 30-man heat, or is it split up into heat 1, heat 2? What are we doing?
So I doubt it would be 30 people, because there would be no roll downs at all. I guess I forgot to mention that. So you would know
the overlap.
Field. Yes, because there would be overlap. So let's say you have the 5th time worldwide. You probably obviously would also have the 5th time or one of the top times in the regional Elite 15.
So are they allowed to hit other regions?
You could, but you would have to travel there and race within that region. So it's not like nationality based. It's if you race. So if you raced in Spain, you could qualify for whatever that would be.
And
so
what would the
Elite
field
15
size?
World would get to run at all of them, and then the regional Elite 15s you have to qualify in? Is that what you're saying?
I would say Elite 15 worldwide would be able to run at all of them, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
That's
so
sort of a concession to make sure that Hyrox gets what they want.
but you can still get into that. So go ahead, Jack.
Oh, you're so anyway, when it comes to if you're gonna have more than 15 people at that point, how do you determine who's in the fast and the slow heat if you're gonna have 2 heats? Is it time based? Is it performance?
Well, I
at the
would
regional championship?
assume if it was closer to like 20, they could figure that out to get in 1 heat. If it maybe 20, 25 might be stretching a little bit. I think that would be the max. What I think is also good about this is you would know the field, whatever that cutoff date is, with no roll downs, they would know that field quicker than, inviting the person, waiting 2 days, inviting another person.
What do you feel is a fair cutoff date for athletes to know? Because it's likely that, say you're in Australia or
Yes,
some other place.
I agree. I think that's one of the problems now. I guess that would be tough with not knowing the dates of all these majors and everything, and how spread out they'll be, or if they'll be close to each other. But I would say at least like 2 to 3 weeks.
So they've been planning an initial Elite 15 race in Barcelona, November 18th. The first American race, if we discount the New York race that all the top athletes didn't really want to run at because it was 2 weeks after Worlds. And
bad air quality. Let's not forget.
It was before the summer. Everything else is in the fall. And Miami, for those who don't know, is not on the schedule anymore. It has been postponed / canceled and replaced, however you want to call that. The first American race is November 11th. So 6 or 7 days prior to the first major.
So you don't have to peak twice.
You do not have to peak twice.
So it's a perfect setup is what I'm hearing.
In your base phase, you'll be running.
It is perfect for being able to run your race and then book a plane ticket and a hotel and whatever else you need to do and get your butt, get straight to Barcelona. It's ideal.
Just pop in one of your Magida drinks and you're good.
Be recovered, be sleepy.
Post game. It's called post game.
Again, celebrate your win.
Celebrate your wins, plural.
Wins.
Plural. You get more than one win out here, BK.
Yeah, because you're probably doing the Go Ruck later in the day.
It's possible.
That's true. Could do relay. So just for example, this previous year for the European Championships, with this system, Marcus, it would be the Elite 15 times and then no roll down out, and then the next times in that region. So like we're saying, if it was the European Championships this year, I think there would only have been, it would be a field of 16, right?
Yeah.
The way that it kind of worked out, because Dylan was the only person inside the Elite 15 that wasn't in the European region. Correct?
Yeah. So it wouldn't make much difference. If there was theoretically some region who had slower times generally,
theoretically,
that region would, then that region would likely have more competitors.
So, for example, the United States, we were able to get 4 athletes into our North American Championship race, 4 athletes who all finished in the top 8. And so we would be able to, under your system, have added a Rich Ryan, have added a Ryland Shadegg, have added
Marcus.
So those yes.
Have added a Marcus Wallace.
And then you don't need to sit at home and watch guys run like 70 minutes at the regional championships that aren't hurt.
right.
Marcus, do you have any?
That was not a shot at you, David Magida.
I broke 70. Okay, with broken back and all.
I think that was a shot.
Suck
he
on
was
that.
saying he's not actually hurt.
Marcus, is there any way to guarantee your spot? I forget which number you said, tier 1, tier 2, your initial 15 in your region by doing well at an event, like place wise rather than time wise, or is it still kind of leaning towards the place or time being more important?
It would be time wise. I guess that's also, like I said, down the line, if you could have like that regional. So if it's Hyrox US, they could decide if each event, maybe they just want to give an automatic spot. But I think it seems like generally differences are within the region. Like all the US courses seem relatively consistent. So I would say that would all just be time based within it. And if you aren't making the top 15, I would say, yes, you aren't going to be in the mix probably anyways, if you aren't in either of those tier 1 or tier 2.
I would argue that there are 2 tiers of US courses. There is regular course and there is slow course. So I would say that there are variants.
You get happy when you get regular.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are 2 tiers to like a lot of the European courses where you have like regular European and then you have like super fast European that like comes out of nowhere. And I think most of the UK courses are actually reasonably comparable to the United States. Their sleds seem to be a little more similar to ours.
That's also why I was thinking, like I said, for like the European regional races, maybe like UK gets 5 spots, Spain and Italy get 5, and the other group gets 5. So then they also, because I think definitely a couple of the UK guys got screwed this year as well.
Yes.
I also forgot one thing. Tier 1 So the top 15 times worldwide, they get to come and they get all the hotel and everything, travel, and tier 2 doesn't get it. And I think I did introduce to Rich the idea that tier 2, if you don't get like all the gear and stuff, but you beat a tier 1 athlete, you get to take their gear home.
And a 4-pack of post game.
Hence the Ram roller in Marcus's office.
All right, I like it. So things that we need from this, we need like how the dates are going to shake out, potentially how many regions. So we're talking 4 regions then, we think?
Well, you probably have to have
should
4.
Have two European races, so that would be the regional, and then one Asia Pacific, one America would make sense,
so
especially given
2 Europe.
how many races there are in each region.
Well, the nice thing about this system is that it implements a few things. One, these are the 4 major regions that they want to have races in. They want to do 2 in Europe and 1 in the States and 1 in APAC somewhere. And I think they have Hong Kong listed right now. But the other nice thing is it does accomplish the expand the field. It accomplishes at least allow some people to qualify within their region. So you check a lot of boxes nicely with this system. The other thing is I have been having conference calls with some of the top Americans. I had a long call with a bunch of the American women, and they are very concerned about the state of the qualifying system, not just for now, but for the long term. And one of the things that's been consistent, as if like we can't do a complete overhaul of the system, but what can we do to make it better, was to make races open. So championship races, at least the ones that are not the world championship, make them open and run as many waves as possible, and have a cut line or something like that to determine, all you got to do is beat this time and you're in. And that time is like it's not like a unattainable time. Dylan wants that time at like 63 for the men, but I think we're talking more like 65, 66 for the men, and for the women looking more like, 70 or something like that. So it's similar to that system. But differences being in like world championship qualifiers. I did want to put this out there in the universe to you for your system. We had discussed roll down spots for world championship qualifiers at the regional events, meaning like if Lauren Weeks gets first place or top 3 at 2 events, like last year, does Alondra, who got 4th at both of those majors last year, then receive the extra auto qualifier instead of it just disappearing into the ether?
Good question.
I like that you pass that. Then it always gets tricky though, because that person qualified. Why doesn't the 4th place from that first race get it versus the 4th place from the second race?
Right.
We talked about this. We discussed this. I brought up the same point, and the point was it wasn't available in the first race. It is available.
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
race.
you know what you're racing for at that point. So yeah, in the race, if that person's ahead of you, it doesn't matter. I'm still in the qualifying spot. Yeah.
Like if Lauren Weeks is in front of you, but you're in 4th place, as long as I can keep holding this spot, I'm going to qualify.
Because I think that's their position, right, David, is that that it wouldn't be fair for the previous race to have the roll down. But yeah, you're right. Like whatever, there wasn't a roll down in that one, and there is in this one. Like,
well, and in theory, that person's not in this race.
Right.
Lauren Weeks isn't in the race. She's competing, but her result roll down isn't there. So it's the same. There's still 3 spots available, just like the first race, because she's not there. She doesn't exist in this result.
From the qualifying standpoint. Yeah. As
So
long as there are always, it's less fair when you say there are really only 2 qualifiers available. There's really only 1 qualifier.
Why did the first one get 3? Yeah.
That's right. That's true. And then, did I miss the who qualifies to Worlds, or is it?
You said
just
3?
3 in each. Yeah. How is it working in the region?
I was thinking, I just said that, keep it sort of what Hyrox wanted. It sounded, with the 3. I do like that. Yeah, there would be a roll down, especially. It's going to be the top same 3 women on the podium every race. That would get a little old.
And then
because
the final,
if you're consistently like that 6th place woman, let's say you're hitting an average of 6th place in all the majors, you're clearly one of the 6 best. Like, shouldn't you definitely be at World Championships?
Right.
I would definitely agree with that. Yes.
Whereas but if you don't, the way the system is now, if that person who gets 6th repeatedly doesn't get a 2-minute fast course, they could theoretically be bumped all the way outside of the top Elite 15, even though they've shown they are better competitors when it comes to racing than the rest. So how would the final 3, so say it's 4 regions, 3 spots each with a roll down, you get 12 automatic qualifiers. We got 3 to finish. How it would, and
You want to run a last chance qualifier?
or just time based. I mean, people have had and like the system is still time based, which I think Hyrox likes. Like, I think that they have said maybe, but I don't think they're willing to admit that these courses are as fucked up as they are. You know, like they would. I don't think that they want to change
played
that.
off at the World Championship. I feel like that's admitting it.
They just didn't.
They did. I was looking back at the press announcements, like when they made that big announcement last fall about like the sleds are now standardized. They also did have like a short paragraph in there about we recognize there will be variability due to these factors. I can't remember what they were. So they have recognized at least, but you know, it's what's an allowable variability, I guess.
Would it be time based in those like, I don't know, how would it work? Like the last 3 just based off the best times within their regional championships or something? But that would even really wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, the time base gets tricky.
You can do a component of what my system is, which we can get to later, which is that you can add one final last chance qualifier race, but and then the top 3 from there fill out your 15. You could also expand the field to 20 and take the 8 fastest times that remain, and then when you're getting into splitting hairs a little bit, at least like everybody had a bunch of chances to auto qualify, and now we're talking about time.
Right. Yes, I think that's.
But
fair.
then you can't say Elite 15 anymore.
That's a good point.
But
They
first
seem to
year
like
that I
branding.
raced it,
I don't.
They do like that branding.
well, the first year that I raced at World Championships, it was Elite 20, and I thought at the time it sounded really good, and then they changed it to Elite 15, and that sounds good once you hear it 100 times, and you know it could be Elite 25 or Elite 30. And Elite 30
sounds
also
cooler?
sounds good.
Hyrox World Championship.
That's not that bad. That just sounds.
You don't
good.
have to put a number on it.
Right.
You also don't need to put the word elite into it either. We've seen the impact of that.
Super Bowl is not the Elite 2. It's just the Super Bowl. You know, the best. March Madness, it happens to be 64, but is it really 64 because we have play-in game? It doesn't matter. No one's tuning in because it says 64. They're tuning in because it's March Madness. We just need to move past that idea of we're going to announce the select number of people because it has a cool name.
Yeah. Sweet 16 sounds cool until you get to Elite 8.
Yeah.
We went way over.
Shocked.
We went way over. Marcus, excellent job. Great job.
Yeah,
Marcus.
bravo.
Great job. Well thought out. I like a lot of it. I'm awarding points over here. I'll let you know who wins at the end. And it's up to me.
And you're the sole. Okay. Yeah.
It's up to me.
We're doing this
Tony
battle
Romo.
bunker style.
No one knows the scoring system.
Tune in 2024 for a hazy announcement.
Wheel of names again, or Jack? Are you feeling confident, or do you want to just
Names. Wheel
of names?
Yeah, I was gonna say Magida. Yes.
Magida's-
But anyway, do names. It worked out right.
If it we'll do
I'll be
wheel of
ready.
names, and if it's you can nominate someone else.
Yeah.
How about that? We're just spinning it, and
I
it's
feel
gonna
like
be Magida.
only 2 of us came with a plan.
Let's
and
put it
2
in
just
existence.
are sort of
Ball
winging it.
don't
Oh
lie.
my God!
Ball
Wheel of
don't
names is
lie.
undefeated today. Wheel of names fucking rules, man. Wheel of names.
The Hyrox gods have shined down upon me for once. Here we go.
All right, let's hear it, David.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about the system that I initially pitched to Hyrox prior to the season. I reached out to them about 2 months before World Championships to offer my services in the assistance of the development of a more equitable qualifying system, as well as the development of an athletes panel, so that we would be able to bring in a bunch of European and American and other international athletes to come up with a system that we all felt was fair, for everyone. And when I talk about fair, I'm not just talking about, okay, like we all had a fair shake on courses, or more chances, less chances, equal courses. I'm also talking about like socioeconomically equitable, because the way the system is right now, a lot of who can run what races and a lot of who has their best shots at qualifiers based on the way their entire schedule is programmed out. Like for the summertime, it's all in Australia, Asia, Dubai, unless you are capable of taking a week off of work multiple times, afford a flight that's in excess of $1,000 or $2,000 if you live in the United States, for example. It is not financially equitable. And so that is one of the big problems, is when you live in Europe, you are able to jump on an $80 Ryanair flight from Austria to France or Cologne or wherever you want to go. Like, it's very easy. If you live in the UK, and this is, I think, one of the things that's overlooked about their attendance, they're getting a lot of the same athletes to multiple races because they are riding trains, a really advanced like public transportation system to get somewhere for like $40. So like this makes a difference. And then they look at the United States as one country. They say things to you like, well, you have a race in LA. If you live on the East Coast, we know that that's like flying to London for us. And so there is a difference where they look at the United States, for example, and they say this is a country, but we're really the size of the entire continent of Europe. So approach wise, I thought a system that enabled athletes to qualify in from anywhere to at least their regional championships was key, while also creating some more significant major races to enhance broadcasting, etc. So here's my pitch. I had 3 meetings with Hyrox corporate about it. It went nowhere.
Yeah, I did want to follow up. I know you offered your services. What did they say?
Well, they took it very seriously at the time. I had meetings with an hour-long meeting with Christian, an hour-long meeting with Mintra, an hour-long meeting with Douglas, and we just didn't push it across the finish line.
Do you think they text about you like, this fucking guy?
No, they were like very receptive, and like they would set up Zoom calls.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm annoying, but I come with ideas.
You got ideas.
Let's go. All right. So first off, I wanted to create a system that made it easier for people to race their own regional championships. So one of the things that I said was, you don't have to live in that region. However, you have to qualify within that region to run at the regional championship. So one of the things that I said was, if you win at a venue, any venue in your region, you win that race, Miami, LA, New York, you are into the North American Championships. You win in Vienna, you are into the European Championships. Like, you just beat everybody there. I don't care if none of the big contenders showed up, you still won. Now, if you want to put a cut line on that, put a cut line. But
like a time.
In general, yeah. But in general, I think, like when you talk about like who's best, the idea of like, like Meb never ran like the fastest marathon times, right? But he'd go out there and be a gamer and beat people. So I think there's something to that, being able to beat people. The second thing that I would add is 2 regional championship qualifying events. And I would put one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast in the States, or something close to that based on the schedule. Like it might have to be like LA and Chicago, for example, because you might not get enough East Coast races. But in each of those races, you would say either 5 or 10 athletes qualify into the North American Championships. And again, you could roll down spots as well. So you could have cash prize for that. Those races become broadcastable races because they're races with real stakes. And all the top guys are going to go to LA, and then all the top guys are going to go to Chicago. So you're actually getting like more races where a lot of the big dogs are going and fighting it out, because there's some cash, there's qualifying spots, there's hype behind it. And I think all of a sudden you create stakes, and you can broadcast these as, they don't need to be done as grid course. Like we're talking about a regular race with just a few extra cameras can go a long way towards being very broadcastable, especially if you like have one from a catwalk, like say the Chicago race, where you can shoot down from up the catwalk above. It'd be really easy to film. So that would be that. In Europe, you do the same thing. I would suggest 1 race in Germany, 1 race in the UK, your big markets, your home market, of course, your UK is the market that's really killing it right now. They're getting like 10,000 people at an event. It's also, they're very accessible for everyone. And then I would put a championship race for each of those regions. Ideally, you run them as a regular race, but you could also run them as grid, depending on how many qualifiers you get. You could continue to fill in, like, the number of spots that you give in the regional qualifiers could be determined by the number of race winners that you have. Like, if you want to designate, we have 20 spots in this race overall, and we have 4 race winners, then we have 16 spots available through the regional qualifiers after that. Or I'd say that that's still fluid. You can choose the amount of athletes you want and control it that way. Then from that race, I would say that the regional qualifiers each get to send like 5 athletes to the world championship. Sorry, the regional championship. The top 5 would go to the world championship. So you'd get like 5 from Europe. You'd get 5 from the United States. You could get, I would reduce the number for APAC. Like, I'd say you're looking more like 3 from Australia and 3 from Asia, just because, I mean, that still gives you more in that region, just because you're talking about, they're newer. Like, they don't even necessarily need championships their first year, you know, like that could be a second year thing for them. And then you talk about expanding it. But you give them a chance to qualify for worlds. You give them some auto qualifiers. And then each region would have a last chance qualifier. And the last chance qualifier means you had a bad race at North American champs or Euros or whatever, you get another shot. And the only people eligible to run at these last chance qualifiers are people who are not qualified. And you just say, hey, in the United States and Europe, here's like another 3 spots. They're up for grabs. And 1 more spot in Australia, 1 more spot in Asia, up for grabs. Go and fight for it. And there's no cash prize for that race because you're telling the top athletes they can't go, but there is a qualifying spot. And then you all go race on a grid for the world championships.
All right. Questions, comments? David Magida.
I have a question. So in this system, is there any time qualification for any of these races?
So the only time qualifier could be theoretically that you
Like
have to have achieved, not officially, because the way you'd run the qualifiers would be just wave after wave after wave of pro racers, but you could seed the top pros in the final heat of the day, or you could say, okay, there's a cut line and you have to have achieved in the last 12 months, you have to have gone under that cut line at a race in order to run in this qualifier. Otherwise, you can run pro, still get a time, but you can't run in the official championship qualifying race. I think that's up for grabs how you want to play with it. Both are options, and I'd be open to discussing both.
Or like a standard for the winners, right? Like that could be the winners of a
regular race.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a separate conversation as well. Like having to achieve at least a 65 or something for your win in a regular race to count.
Right.
But basically, this provides a pathway in via a qualifying race. It also provides a pathway in from a regular race, which means that regular races don't become insignificant. Like, you could still qualify into a championship event via any race.
That was going to be one question I had. So let's say you have the final major or regional, whatever you want to call it, is 8 weeks out from the World Championships, and Hyrox still has 6 races in that time. Would there be any meaning for a racer to race those in between before the World Championships?
Well, I guess that depends if that race is going to be used for them to qualify into another regional championship. Because again, we're talking about that's just at a regional level. This proposal was before they decided they wanted 4 majors for the season. This was under the pretenses that we'd have, these essentially would be mid majors.
Right.
The qualifiers would be your mid majors or sub majors, and then you'd have 3 actual majors like we did last year, which is the European Championships, the North American Championships, and the World Championships. But it would create more races of significance below that. And then you'd still be able to get into we would push championship season back much further under this scenario.
Yes.
You'd be running mid majors throughout the season in addition to regular races. And then of course, yes, there's a purpose to it, and the purpose of running additional races after you qualify is practicing, fine-tuning, working on strategy. Like there's still reason to run. It also would give athletes who are qualified for world championships or qualified for the regional championships the opportunity to do something that none of us ever get to do, which is run doubles and things like that, and actually have some fun with the season and mix it up with just everyday Hyrox racers, because people absolutely love that and it's good for the sport.
David, you mentioned a 12-month cutoff window. Are you like, what if that overlaps how someone did at World Championship? Or are you saying from day one post the previous World Championship? Is that kind of where you're getting at there?
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, like, let's say somebody, I think it's again up for discussion, because let's say somebody gets hurt at the start of the year and they want to run at the regional championship or a regional qualifier, but they haven't gotten any races in because they're just coming off a stress fracture or something like that. You can say, hey, let's look back 12 months and see if this person has actually run a time fast enough to beat the cutoff. Like, we're not talking about like giving them an elite 15 spot. We're talking about just like in the sense of like when you want to run a marathon or something like that, they might look for your fast runner time so you can skip the lottery and it goes back 2 years. It's something in that vein where I think a year is acceptable to go back to the previous season.
That's kind of what happened.
Can they beat the cut line?
Yeah, that's what happened with Linda Meyer, right? Like, weren't her times from 2022 and then when she was crushing it early on, or maybe I'm getting the details mixed up. I thought that she had like a really strong opener and then kind of
she did
for a while.
Yeah, and then she did get hurt, but her times were able to carry her to the World Championship.
Yeah. I just believe that you should have to race your way into World Championships, and that like one time achieved on a course that was maybe a little fluky should not be enough to just get you all the way in. But one race where no matter how fluky the course was, you went out and beat everyone that you had to beat to get there, that is more significant to me, because it's like we play to win the game, that kind of thing. And that's what really matters. You prove without a doubt you deserve to be at that championship race if you are beating people that deserve to be at that race as well.
So you would get, I'm just going to try to summarize, you get 2 regional qualifiers to then get into your regional championship. To make your regional qualifier, you have to run a race on that region's soil, correct? So like if we wanted to go to England, run a regular race with no stakes just to get our chance to get into the regional qualifier and then go back, we'd be traveling like 3 times overseas, more or less, right?
So I think the argument is you can run the regional qualifier. Anybody can run the regional qualifier, but you'd have to fly over to that regional qualifier.
Okay, that's
to then qualify.
I added a step
for the regional championship.
So regional qualifiers are open.
I would say that they're open.
Yes. Okay.
With a cut line.
With a time cut line. So like if you're just getting into it, like you have to have proved that you can run under 70 like or something.
65, 70, something like that. Whatever. It doesn't have to be a crazy time. It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be a 61,
But that you could just we're not getting the Spartan start lines of old where you look at these NBC races and you're like, what are some of these guys doing on this line?
These guys paid an extra $30 so that they can, none of that.
Okay, cool. And then so from the regional championship, top 5 get auto bids. Are we in top 5 from North America, top 5 from Europe, and then 3 from APAC or whatever?
Originally, I had 3 from APAC, which got us to 13. And then I said a 14th in the last chance qualifier from APAC, like 1 more. And then I said 3 more from Europe in the last chance qualifier, 3 more from the United States in the last chance qualifier. So that got you to elite 20.
20. Okay. Okay. So okay.
Now, of course,
question.
I do recognize it's inequitable for Australia and Asia for 1 year, but then those numbers would shift once they've had a year of racing under them.
Prove it. Yeah.
Prove it.
What would the timeline look like this? So let's say there's they stick with a May World Championship. When would like the different regional championships occur? And then before that, the mid majors, like you said.
My thought was LA would be one of those races. So LA is in December. So you'd have a whole fall of racing, regular races, and then you'd have your LA race. The second one would come in early 2021. Like I think in the United States, Houston is in January, I want to say. Miami is going to be in February. And then I think Chicago is looking like it's going to be a little too late because they are scheduling that as I've heard, the rumor is a week before the North American Championships. So they're putting both Chicago races 7 days prior to the majors. Cool. Thanks for that, guys. And so you probably couldn't use Chicago as it, but then of course the North American Championships is March 2nd in the United States in Washington, DC. You could always push it, but originally that was scheduled for March 16th, the same day as the Washington, DC Rock and Roll Half Marathon. And then they had to reschedule because of that, hence our problems.
Was that just breaking news, or does everyone know that already? North American Championships, Washington, DC.
They broke that at Worlds. They broke that at Worlds.
Dude, I'm going to drink fucking 15 post games after North American Championship.
Yeah, our plan is to sponsor the after party because I don't think we'll be able to sell these in the convention center. But
I'm going. BK's going.
I'm gonna have a helmet. My hands are free. I'm gonna rage.
In an ideal world, I think that the all regional championships should be in like March.
You should put the regional championships close together, maybe 3 weeks apart. I mean, I like that spacing that they had this year for that.
And then April, last chance.
April, last chance.
But they could be, last chance qualifiers in April. That gives you an entire month after it's over to work on your logistics, for Hyrox to get their logistics together. For the end of May World Championships, it allows athletes to get one more training cycle in, maybe injure themselves severely like I did. And
allegedly.
But allegedly. I
haven't seen the X-rays.
And then you have not seen the
That's
X-rays.
A good point.
And then at the same time, like, again, man, all sports have a regular season and a postseason. Like, give us our regular season before we start the postseason.
Yeah.
Can I have a sort of a high level. I think what you proposed would be very tough for them to do like this season, where it could be, they definitely more logistics. I think, and then my proposal was almost something they could plug into what they already have for this year to make this year better. But I do like all the different championship events, something that you can actually train for, race at. It gives more people opportunity within those that, they aren't doing the same race over and over again.
It suits the idea of like peaking for races. Like everyone's training for the same events. We're all peaking at the same time. We're all running on the same courses, etc. Time becomes less of a problem because in my meetings with, and I agree, like yours is a better patchwork solution for like right now, plug and play, fix some of the inequities that are going on right now. This was my pitch prior to them unveiling and beginning a season. This was 2 months prior to World Championships that we began these discussions. And the idea was really having a broadcastable series. And one of the ideas with it is create stars within regions. So guys it's not just like the same. If you ask the average Hyrox fan, so to speak, person who's involved and is tracking the sport, like who are like the 5 best male and female Hyrox athletes, they might only be able to get like 2 or 3 deep down that list and they don't know the rest. And so this is more like the idea of like creating some fandom in the sense of like you have Premier League, you have Spanish League, you have German League, soccer, football, and then athletes coming together to race like Champions League, right? And so the leagues are all coming together. And so you're creating a little bit more fandom amongst that as well. And hopefully, and some tribalism, like hopefully that helps grow the sport on the professional side a little bit.
That's what I was thinking when I started talking about like future plan. Like it could be like the Hyrox UK division. Yeah, they get to send like their 5 champions to these races.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool. They'd be able to hype them up a little bit. They'd be able to tell their story. I think that is definitely the way to go in the future.
And then they can organize it however they want, right? Like if German's like, yeah, time's fine, like great. Then we could do our system here where we get to race into it.
That's who you go to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, like I sat down with one of the gentlemen who they said he's in charge of like quality control for Hyrox. And he said to me, there are only 2 things that affect time on a course. And he said, and that would be the number of laps that you run and any variance in the sled. And I said, well, that's
false,
not correct.
That's
I said, agree to disagree. And he said, give me examples of other things that affect time. And I said, okay, well, where should I begin? One would be the length of the straightaways. So if it's a rectangle rather than a square, you're going to be able to stride out for longer periods of time. One would be the number of turns that you put in said multi-lap course. So like New York is 17 turns, including a hairpin, and that hairpin entry into the rock zone is going to slow you down significantly more than being able to cut straight in. The order of the actual rock zone stations, if you can run in and run straight down the line in order without breaking stride, is going to be faster. The placement of the water station, if it's directly at the entranceway, it creates a log jam where everyone stops right there. In Manchester, they placed the out before the in next to each other. So people were coming out as people were coming in, and it was a mess, and that slows people down. So I could talk for forever about all of the things that create variance over 8 rounds. And so we have to find a way to avoid time being the end all be all.
Putting the out before the in, is that just inexcusable? What the fuck are they doing when they do that?
It's insane.
What in the world? And it happens like a lot. What are we doing?
Yeah. And not just before, directly next to each other.
To each other. Yeah. So
they should never
just
be within 20 meters of each other, ever.
Even if they were, if they would just switch the order.
Just switch the order.
And if you do, they have to be separated. So you're coming this way.
Yes.
Yeah. You don't cross streams. It's like
over and over.
It's conduct 101. Don't cross.
Don't cross the
stream.
stream.
I'm a traffic engineer, and that is literally something that you learn right away. It's like if you're having back-to-back lefts, have them cut in front of each other, not like go
behind each other.
And they could even have a rail. They need a rail to separate them on the inside the rock zone and outside. So there's a place to like merge and merge out.
Ooh, then we got
one of the things that I witnessed was numerous collisions in Manchester where people going out and people coming out from the water station and people coming in trying to get to it at the same time. They just collided, and I watched a guy tear all the ligaments in his ankles. In his one ankle.
You could
out
see that
for 6 months. What?
No, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Oh no, I know the guy, and he's out for the season because of it.
Bracken
A collision at the in out.
I mean, you could really optimize it. You could stagger each machine so there's slight overlap. So when you come off it or into it, you're not into people's paths. Like for the quality control guy to say there are 2 factors is ridiculous.
My mind was blown. And then he sat there and I listed off like all those things and he just goes, agree to disagree. So
tell you what, we're going to build you a crappy course and a good course. And we're going to keep your only 2 quality control issues exactly the same on both of them. And I'm going to make you run 3 minutes slower. How about that? And then you can tell me if you agree to disagree. If the only thing that matters is laps, I'm going to keep laps the same and sled exactly the same. And we can sway you 3 minutes either way.
Absolutely.
It's one of the, I mean, we could go on this for forever, but I was talking with Dave Claxton one time and he just made it so simple. He's like, just show somebody who's not involved in the sport 2 different maps of 2 different venues and be like, is this standardized? It's like, no, these are all different all the time. Like clearly this is not standardized. DECA, however, got it down. Let's just make Hyrox DECA fit.
No.
How about we do that?
No.
Just that's
You're my moderate, Rich.
That's my proposal. All right. Any other questions, concerns?
No, it's good.
Last comments.
Reasonable.
It's reasonable. It's logical. It would require a little bit of work and like a 2 to 3 year process to make it happen. And so you can see why they'd be like, oh, absolutely not. This is not what we'll do.
Is it
I
that
will
much
say
work?
that you don't have to like add any races to the
Right.
schedule. You just have to literally slap a label on a couple of them.
It's like they do time, like it's all automatic timing anyway. You can just look at these specific races and put Q's next to 5 people that finished in Hyrox Chicago in March or whatever they do. It's like that's all you really have to do. I mean, maybe
There's no work involved.
not too much, right? Like,
You just got to promote them. You just got to be like, hey, this one's important.
right? That's the race brain. We got it. We got it covered. Maybe, I don't know. Back to the wheel. Jack, you got anything else?
Do it. I can go if you want.
I thought you wanted to give feedback.
No. I think I agree with the head. You know, the actual performance being based on like head to head matters a little bit more than time based. So I'm in your corner on that.
Cool.
Hey,
Yeah.
we had a changing table behind you there. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, man. Changing table.
That's a first for Race Brain.
What do we got on there?
It's toy boxes. I got
Got your
what do we got?
white
Toy
containers.
books.
Oh yeah,
Got
the
got
calyx.
like some
I'm gonna pin this,
light
huh?
reading materials. There's a xylophone.
What's it
Practice.
decorated with? Is it elephants or what do we got? I can't tell.
There's an elephant. There's out this way. There's you can see there's a water table out there.
It's for
I got a
punishments.
map. Got a map here, so I look sophisticated. It's a map of the world.
So you
Point,
should-
point
you
to the
should-
regions that you think are flawed right now for qualifying.
Exactly.
Okay, if we look here, the regions flawed. That's Europe. I'm pointing at all of Europe. Also Australia, also flawed. I don't know.
Only ones that
Figure
aren't
it out.
flawed are the ones that don't have high rocks in the region that don't exist. All right.
I'm excited to see if Dubai is flawed at all.
As a course or as a region?
They just do things different there. I think it could be anything.
They could have some
Other
monsters
courses.
out. They could have some like good athletes. I mean, the sleds are going to be insane, but I mean, there's a huge
gonna
CrossFit
get
community
those-
there, huge fitness community. They could have some beasts. A lot of
They're
like
gonna have those Hong
transplants.
Kong sleds.
Hell
They're gonna
yeah.
have those minute 36 sleds.
No way.
Well, and also,
They're gonna have their
You know,
own
it's-
sleds.
since you're talking about the
Gold-plated.
distance in America, Europe going to Dubai is no different than like someone on the East Coast going to the West Coast. So
Well, this
they
was
also
one
have
of the
another
things.
race. If you're going to say America's one region,
Right.
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying. It's like I was talking to some of the Hyrox UK, like the people that run it, and they're like, "You could fly to the Dubai race this summer," and I was like, "That's like 15 hours." But
20.
if you live in London, it's not that different than flying
Yeah,
to LA.
yeah.
That's true.
Those motherfuckers. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting course. I think there could be some beasts that show up to that because a lot of transplants, a lot of UK based people. I mean, like Sandy he vacations in Dubai.
Like 3-4 times a year.
He's just balling.
This is all our fault. When we left England to start over and make the mother country, we picked a terrible Hyrox location.
God,
That's what it came down to. We could have moved
True.
anywhere else in mainland Europe and just set up shop.
kept it all in New
Instead-
England.
Our chickens are coming home to roost.
I will say that, like, as the United States continues to expand regionalized Hyrox, like they build out a couple more in Texas and a couple more in California and a couple more in like the mid-Atlantic region, like it will change everything because like right now we have the lowest attendance of any of the countries in the world. We are growing slower than we're doubling. The United States attendance is like doubling year over year, and it's the slowest growing of all their markets by a lot. And so part of that is just because you're not seeing athletes racing 5 regional races in a year. They're running 2. The average person is
point.
maybe running 2 races. And so as they add more races that are in closer proximity, where people can access them without having to spend $800 or $1,000 for the weekend, you're going to see attendance start to continue to rise. And then the regional racing schedules will really become more significant.
that's one thing I think too. Like in the UK, imagine if you have a CrossFit gym, you could tell your members, let's train for a Hyrox, and they could all be like, oh yeah, we'll just hop on and train for that weekend. If you're a gym right now and you're in Ohio or somewhere where there's a race, what are you going to tell
Milwaukee.
them? Okay, and then
You're going
you're going
to
sign up
Chicago.
Thankfully, I'm close to Chicago, but yeah, I mean, otherwise, what if you're in an area you'd have to fly to? What if you're in
Denver,
Seattle, and you're like, all right, we got to catch a flight for the weekend if you want to do this race? It's going to be much tougher to grow.
Well, that's exactly it. And so when they look at the United States and they see one market, and I see many markets. I see the country of Texas. I see the Mid-Atlantic is a region. Florida is really a region. California is its own region. Maybe you could, they had one event in Las Vegas. It was the World Championships. Then they never went back. Like, I don't think Vegas is a great market for them, but it's a place people will travel to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about the numbers, that it's the regions, like the geography has something to account for the growth. Good point. All right. I like it. I like the whole system. I like racing into it. I guess like the only thing would be, like if one region happens to have an excess of depth at the top, this is, like if there was limited spots, but there's still 5 auto bids and potentially 2 or 3, you still get 7 in a region. Like it's still a lot. 7 or 8 in a region. Like you should find the right people with that number.
And at the very least, you could say you were at the race. You had the chance.
Yeah.
You had your shot twice. You had 2 shots.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could technically have more because you could also qualify in another region.
I mean, this is more like a sport, right? This is like what we see in sports, which I appreciate. So nice job, David. All right.
Thanks,
So
thanks, buddy.
let's bring up the wheel of names. All right. Who are we speaking into existence this time?
Me.
Jack.
Let's do it.
Jack's gonna get screwed by the wheel. I know it.
No.
Oh my goodness. Will it happen?
Is it 3 for 3 today?
Oh my God. The wheel of names.
Jesus.
Oh,
What are the lottery ticket?
The
Buy a
wheel-
lottery ticket tonight.
The wheel of names is just the wheel of what we're saying is going to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Bracken's last.
All right, Jack.
All right.
You got something?
Yep.
Is this from the
So-
European? Is this from a European perspective?
No, this is my recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I don't want to reinforce a bad system. So why should we continue that? And just a caveat, the calendar might not line up super nicely for this, but you can use this as a blueprint for future years when planning out the season. They're going to continue growing, so you might have dates that work a little bit better at some point in the future. I think first things first, if you're going to have any time-based qualifications, you need to have the same number of laps. DECA, they were able to standardize. You always have 2 laps, 250 meters, whatever. Hyrox has different types of venues. If you're going to do 3 laps, if you're going to do 2, if you're going to do 4, has to be the same at all these. You need to have some logical in and out locations like we talked about, whether that's channelizing the in and out zones so that you don't have those conflict points, because that slows people down. And when it's time-based, every second truly does count. Having rounded turns instead of the grid system where you're having really sharp corners. If you have to accelerate 16, 17 times during a course, that adds up a ton also. And like just allowing speed to be maintained and momentum over the course, that's going to make a difference when you have time-based qualifying. I actually think the number one thing that matters, so my general idea is to have some super races, basically like a national series where you have a certain amount in each region, certain places are going to qualify. But I think the number one thing that matters is you have to have people who live in that region participate in those races. If you live in Europe and you come over to the North American region and you're kicking people out, that's not fair. Like you don't get a chance to see the best representative athletes. Like there was a point where I think 6 or 7 of the top 100 meter hurdlers in the women's field in the world were from the US, and only 3 of them got to make the Olympics. It sucks, but you should allow athletes from other countries to get a chance to race in the Olympics. Like that's just how the qualifying is for them. So I think you need to live in that region. I do think since they are offering higher money that you're going to see some athletes who want to, even if they're from the US going over to Europe, for instance. I'm speaking from an American point of view, but also a ton of Europeans came over for the North American Championship last year. Like I'm okay with them coming over. I just don't think that like they can win money if you win a regional or a series race, you're one of the best, you're facing all this competition, feel free to take the money. I don't think that you should be able to kick people out from racing. So maybe if you have a series race and you have 2 heats, that way you get 30 people. There aren't enough races to really run in at early in the season. For instance, like say that you have an Atlantic and a Pacific. You have the Pacific one in Los Angeles. That's in December. You only have Chicago and Dallas really to qualify for before then. But I like David's idea of anything in the previous 12 months kind of working your way into it. So you have a couple races this year plus your historical record in the past year. Let's have 30 people show up to that from the US, and we'll allow maybe 5 international people if they're like in the top 15 of the world or so they can come and try to win some extra money. But I don't think that you should be able to kick all the people out like it's happened in the past. Same thing with Lauren and Meg and all the US athletes going over and placing well in the European Championship. That didn't define who the best European racers were. It was the best North Americans who went over there and won some money and prevented them from doing well. Like it all gets sorted out later in the year at World Championships and who qualifies, but you should live in your region if you're going to be able to race one of these series races. So anyway, that's kind of it. So let's do top 30 who live in that region plus a couple athletes who are international if they want to travel on their own, try to win some more money. So you have a slow heat, fast heat, whatever, and you run those 2 races. And it doesn't matter if you're in heat 2, if you have a fast time from heat 2 overall, you will end up getting one of the qualifying spots. So the way that I have it broken down is you have 3 European series races, 2 North American, 1 APAC and Asia, and then time based. So if we're going to keep it at 15 qualifiers, if you get top 2 in a European race, male or female, so you have the 3 races. So there are 6 automatic qualifying athletes who will end up making Hyrox World Championship, whether those European regionals are held in Germany, Spain, UK, like wherever it makes sense throughout the year. You can have one in November, January, March. So you have a couple months in between there to get it, to throw in a little training block for that. North America, I think you should have a Pacific and an Atlantic. Probably makes sense having it Los Angeles because that's December. And then a couple months later, maybe Miami, or you could do the DC one in the spring. And then APAC, you need chances for athletes to have run in, they're emerging in Hong Kong and Australia, have it in the spring or late winter. So they actually have a chance of running a couple events. So you can fill those top 30 for athletes who can go in there. And then I think that there should be 3 time-based qualifiers. And the cutoff date is 4 weeks before the World Championship. So the economics gets like buying a last-minute flight. You shouldn't have to do what Tom Hogan did, buy a last-minute flight to Hong Kong to try to qualify. Like, and he happened to live in Europe where the World Championship was. But imagine if this was for Las Vegas and he had to buy another week of flight to go to Las Vegas from Ireland. That's not fair. So I think 1 month out, basically, that's your cutoff worldwide. I think that this system is good because it doesn't matter what time of year. Like, you might have a November, January, March for the European series races, but you have a December and February for North American. It doesn't matter. All that matters is how you do, how well you place at those races in your region, and you get to peak on your own time. You don't have to worry about just varying cutoffs like Copenhagen existing at the end of the year or Hong Kong, and you don't have another North American one for a month before that. Like, it allows a little flexibility there. Another thing to keep in mind, CrossFit in the past, they used to have 8 separate regions, and you had top 5 in those regions, no matter what, doesn't matter, talent level, anything, top 5 in every single region adds up to 40 total participants. They did that, 2014, 2015. This year, if you look at it, they have 1 qualifier automatically from Africa, 2 from Asia, 2 from South America, 3 Oceania, 10 from American West, 11 American East, and 11 from Europe. So they've realized there's a talent gap. I think currently, if we're looking at depth and the number of races they put on, Europe should have the most opportunities to have athletes qualify in automatically. However, I think that in an emerging market like APAC, Asia Pacific, or Australia, maybe specifically on like the women's side, you only have 1 automatic qualifier, because you saw what happened in Hong Kong. It was like in the 70s for their winner. And meanwhile, at the World Championship, you end up having basically 6 or 7 of the top 10 from North America. And those are only the ones who are allowed to qualify, essentially, because of the current system. So I think maybe you open up another spot on the women's side for the current state of the sport from the North American region. So you might have 5 auto qualifiers for women, 4 for men, but you can still have more from those 3 remaining time-based spots that you can qualify at any point during the year until a month before World Championship. Another one, I think that you should allow open waves at those regional races. It's very unlikely at this point now that we're expanding to 30, but like if someone does pop a good race, they at least had the chance to do it. Rich, you would have loved that opportunity this year, like to qualify in there, but so many people got kicked out. Having that open wave with the same exact course, you're using the elite pro weights, that matters. So if you run that race on that same exact course, good for you. You earned your spot. Having about a 2-month window, that's good. And the other thing, I think you should have a roll down system. So if Lauren qualifies twice, she only takes up one of those spots. She can still win money at the second race. So it incentivizes her to show up, but you have a trickle down so that athletes you have all the good people making it in there, but the best athletes still get their chance to make money at these races. I think that roll down doesn't prevent other athletes from participating, basically. I guess the big thing, I think that head-to-head makes a lot more sense than time-based qualifying, as we talked about with how variable the courses are. This rewards head-to-head doing well at your series races, essentially.
Nice. Well done. All right. Questions, comments, qualifiers here for Jack Bauer.
It's well done.
Just applause. I have a question.
That's good.
So you mentioned you start off with making sure there's some sort of standard of a course, right? So the time-based, the last 3 remaining spots for the World Championship must be hit on courses that meet these standards, or do you want to see all of the courses meeting a standard?
Yeah, now that you bring up that point, I think that it should be, at a 3-lap course or a 4-lap course or a 2-lap course, whatever they decide.
It should be the dumbest course. It should be like the out is like real. The out is actually the yellow one. For that, like it's real confusing.
They're the same.
They're the same exact.
Yellow on one side, black on the other.
They do have CAD drawings of all of their courses, right? So they make full spec CAD drawings. So with that in mind, they could say at the beginning of the year or before like the year's over, they could be like, anyone who's not auto qualified, if you want a time-based qualifier, these are the only courses. This one, they could list them.
Yeah.
And athletes could have their choice of which one to travel to try and get a time qualifier at the end. Theoretically, sounds like a lot of work. Like it sounds a little messier, but it is an option.
I think that it's just like what Spartan Race is doing for Palmerton. It's like, here's the course ahead of time. You know that it's going to look like this. We're telling you ahead of time this is going to be a 3-lap course or 4-lap course. Expect this at every single one of our big races. You might have a random venue that's not one of their major races that logistically you just can't fit it. It's more of a square than a rectangle. You can't make those dimensions work at your venue. But if you were going to host a series race in my system, you have to have those dimensions work at your venue so that you're consistent across the world.
Yeah, like I think what's interesting is like this idea of athletes are starting to know the courses, like as we go year over year, like we know to avoid New York. LA has typically not been great. We don't know on Dallas because they seem to change the venue every single year in Dallas. They're changing it again, right? It's not the same one you just ran in, Rich, right?
It's not. I don't know. It was Fort Worth this past year. I don't know if they changed it.
They're moving it again. So it's not the Hilton Anatoly. It's not Fort Worth. It's another venue. So again, it's like a bit of a crapshoot. But if you've been racing in Europe and you're running on the same course in Frankfurt year over year over year, you know like what that venue looks like. So it's easier to select based on experience. So having the CAD drawings or having the full description of number of laps, etc., would be helpful.
Marcus, you had something?
What about for the variability too? Like, especially, I mean, look at this New York race where I felt horrible for the women. They have these big, beefy doubles dudes just running in the fast lane and they have to pass them all the time. I guess it could be for any of our systems, but how should they approach when you're doing these races now that there's going to be more heats? Do they go first thing in the morning and then it's mostly clear besides for, these people in these heats, or how would we approach that?
I think later in the day, you'll get more people who don't think they're fast enough to be in the fast lane. Like if you have the stragglers in the later waves, that you can kind of direct them like, hey, you're not fast enough. You're going to be seeing a bunch of athletes coming by at sub 6 minute pace. Do not step on the inside of this, or you can put a threat out to them essentially during the briefing. And I think that would have more likely success versus what you see in obstacle racing, for instance, where you have a bunch of age groupers just sprint out faster than, Ryan Atkins does at the beginning of a race because they think they're good enough early on, and they aren't accepting of that, that maybe they should be overlane. So I think that if you hold it later in the day, you're going to have less interference with the people who get in the way.
Most athletes, I think we would like to run early, but we recognize that like the other reason you want to probably put them later in the day is doubles are done. And if once you can get rid of doubles, what you're getting rid of, one of the things you're getting rid of is a lot of inexperienced people who run side by side rather than, kind of working together.
That's why the ladies have it the worst. The guys in the afternoon, it's always seems better.
Yeah, so it definitely is, but it's still pretty rough. Like I raced that New York course doubles this year, and I ran it individually last year. And last year I was still having to like shove people out of the way, stop short. Like you're weaving the whole time because you're talking about a course that's 250 meters, a lap that's 250 meters around, as opposed to 400 meters around, and putting the same amount of people on it essentially. And it's just, so you're really getting more people just crammed into these little spaces. Like it's just very hard. So they would have to find a way to at least avoid the doubles races.
Yeah. First thing in the morning makes sense, right? Just make the men and women go at 8 and 9.
Or make it Friday night, always.
Friday night lights.
It's an added cost. I know it's an added everything, but they have to decide, do we want crowds and fanfare? Do we want logistical nightmare? Like what do we want to do? As long as they're trying to shoehorn it into all the other things, it's going to suck.
That's an extra day of volunteers and paying staff and paying electric.
But you have to decide.
And paying for the venue for an entire extra day as well, because they'll have to begin setup probably the day before that. And so they also run into issues with the night before from the union perspective, which is in the United States, for example, a lot of our convention centers are union, and they have very specific hours the staff are allowed to be there, not even want to, like can be on site. And Navy Pier, for example, is one of those. And so they would run into situations where like they have to release the staff by like 7 p.m. or whatever. And who would be there to lock up and do whatever? Like you run into major logistical issues with nighttime racing.
But this
just
is
a suggestion.
This is the difference between a sport and a business.
Yes.
What are you trying to do with it? If they do want to take it seriously, they have to find a way to not have doubles and go ruck and all those things on course. Even anyone on course. There should be no one on course when the pros are running, because no one will stay out of that lane. If you're going to do that, you have to rope the lane off and make it, this is a pro only lane. Otherwise they'll never fix it. They'll just keep shuffling the problem to different segments and it won't work.
I mean, even when it's a single heat, like when we ran the North American Championships, there were still people on the course. They tried to clear the course the best they could, but there were still people out there running at the beginning of our race. And so they're going to have that because they can only shut down currently, if they want to make money with their races, they can only shut down all the other heats for so long. Otherwise, they end up losing like 5 hours of actual course time, which is why you've seen them overlap the men's and women's the way they have.
I think it's fine overlapping men's and women's, like just have them back to back, because they're running, relative, like Meg Jacoby breaking an hour, Lauren breaking an hour, like they're not slowing any of the guys down if they're out there.
And if it's one single competitor, like you can easily get around them.
Yeah, that's easy. That's no problem.
Yeah.
I just don't know of a single legitimate sport that the pro athletes are hindered by the age group and open athletes.
They don't.
I can't think of one
Little
example
League to go on before MLB though, so like you never have the same time that athletes.
OCR is the only other one that tries to do this, that try to mix the two together. So they never solved it until they decided to make it standalone time. Let them go first, and we don't care about fanfare on course.
The tough part about like the way a lapped course works, you have the marathon, you can hold people in the elite corral 5 minutes, let them go ahead of everybody, but you're running linearly. And if you catch them, good on you. But if you're doing laps, you're always going to come back to the same point and have all these conflict points. So
ultimately, I mean, like this is just kind of like the bummer, and like this conversation is frivolous because of this, because we're talking about a business here. Like the interest in the sports side of things is very small. So like a lot,
extremely.
Yeah. So like with that overarching, we understand that. We understand, like, they've made it pretty clear that they're going to be the way that they operate, at least for the foreseeable future. It's
But
like, hey,
yeah, but if you have like 3 events in Europe and 2 in North America and 1 standalone event in APAC, like if you're saying these are going to be the big ones, you can plan those specific rare events a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And then use that blueprint for the rest of the season.
okay.
One thing that I was just curious on you guys, because you didn't comment on it yet, since it sounded a little different than what David and Marcus were mentioning. What are your thoughts on the non-resident versus resident things that I was throwing in there? Because Spartan already put in a rule, because this guy Sergey Perelagin, who won the world championship last year, he has previously won the European, Middle East, and Asia Pacific regional championship, and athletes who are in Asia are like, what the heck? Like, he doesn't even live here and he just stole our money basically because he decided to travel over there. They put in a rule a couple of years ago where you must live in your region, and athletes can still go over there and compete if they want to face the best of the best. They're just removed from the podium or a qualifying spot. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it can always get a little tricky though. I mean, like CrossFit has run into the same problem where do people move to be in a different region, or is it what your passport says, or is I think
if you want to move for Hyrox, that's
well, or I guess you just take it from the perspective of you could take it from the perspective of like, okay, you can choose. This is your only region. Like, if you want to go that route, you can say like, okay, like you're determining now, this is your region for the year. So like you get one regional championship, and you might have a guy like Jonathan Wynn, who's Australian but lives in Spain, and he might go, you know what? I'm going for Australia this time. And, he may fly down there, go stay with family, go race, and make that his season, and run most of his races in Europe for the year. But then his championship race could be Australia. Yeah. I don't know what John would do, but I think it makes the most sense to do that. But recognizing like Hyrox will look at a European championship, a North American championship, and they really want it to be like the US Open or the British Open, like the Masters, the Wimbledon, whatever. Like they're looking at it that way, where like we want the best to come to this. They're not looking at it like you live here and you live here.
Yeah. No, I like that. Like if you have the first European super race, for instance, in November, and then the first the APAC one is in March or something like that. If you had raced in Europe just because you want to sign up for it, that's where you're going to race the rest of the year. You're not allowed to race in the other one. I'm fine with something like that because you sort of declared your intention at that point.
I personally don't mind if athletes wanted to travel in order to make money. I don't think it should take qualifying spots from the region. Like if people want to show up like and want to be like, hey, I can make it to Spain for their qualifier race. Let me see if I can grab a couple bucks here and race against the high level competition. But then you would be eliminated from the like forcing athletes out. It's
a nice compromise, Rich, of like you're eligible for money at all these races, but the qualifying spots go to the domestic athletes.
Yeah, that's what I pointed. Yeah, I think because there are so few opportunities where you get a loaded field, and that's what you want to face. You don't want world championships to really be like your first time seeing how athlete X races and their tactics and stuff. But if you made the trip over there across the pond, either direction, like you should have the chance of winning money as well. Just don't prevent them from, or one of the local athletes from getting a spot in. And I also think you shouldn't necessarily discount the smaller regions like Oceania, for instance, and CrossFit Games. They only have 3 qualifying spots, but Tia Claire-Toomey is one of them. So you have very talented athletes who might come from a region with smaller athlete pool. So make sure you give the option for some of those athletes to rise to the top if it's available.
And I agree with you on that. And I think Hyrox is really, they're cognizant of that. I think they're overemphasizing that. And it's like, I just think you should wait 1 year before giving them like equivalent amount of qualifiers to the rest of the world. Like
even a few years might take time.
And you mentioned CrossFit's system. They now have like a worldwide ranking that is based off of the previous 2 years of competition, I believe. But again, that kind of goes along the lines of the standardization. So we could potentially come up with some sort of system if there are these qualified courses that meet a standard. It's like if you've raced X amount of times on these standardized courses and proven that you are this level of competitor, then maybe we could see some sort of differentiation in terms of qualifiers in each region, but right now it's gonna be really hard because we're not sure if all the best athletes are in the championship races. Question, Jack. How does percent of winner work into this?
It doesn't, surprisingly. It's the first time I haven't put it in there.
I'm gonna have to disregard your whole plan then.
How could you make this more confusing for everybody?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear, this one.
That was too clear. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
this is way too clear for a Bauer system.
Yep.
I like it. BK, are you ready?
So now is it bracket?
I get a wheel.
All right, let's get the wheel
Don't
out.
you dare shortchange my wheel.
BK
Spin
needs
that
this
wheel.
We're spinning this wheel, man.
I hope it gets broken.
Yeah, it's just
Flips vertically.
The computer
doesn't land on
crashes.
I'm gonna have my maximum amount of spins I've used in a day. All right, let's see if we can speak this one into existence. We're not getting the good quality handling.
This is like the wheel that Hyrox uses. Like, which region should we screw over this year? And they just type North America, and it lands up on them right
They
there.
don't got that premium shit either. All right, BK, you're up.
Oh,
Congratulations on the win.
Thank you. It was a little less satisfying than I think everyone else's was, but I'm glad to be part of it. All right, I like your systems.
By the way,
I like your systems. They were good, except they suck. And I'm going to fix that all. And it's not your fault. Your systems are great, but you're trying to fix a flawed system with band-aids and splints and things like that. So we're just going to destroy the system. All right. That's today's exercise for me. You guys did a good job. You could choose any one of yours and Hyrox would be in good hands. I'm just going to do the other side here. All right. First of all, we're just going to remove all the biggest problems with Hyrox. One, they're infatuated with time. We're going to only allow people into world championships by racing their way in. So time has no ability to get you to world championships. However, time will have the ability to get you to any qualifier. If you can pop a time, we'll let you show up to a qualifier, but you have to prove that you can race against other people in order to move on. And we're going to get rid of courses mattering or not mattering because you cannot qualify your time on a course. We're going to have each region will have a Hyrox Performance Institute where there is a standard set place to set a time and it will never change. It'll be like basically like running a deca mile at a gym, except one will be the flame holder for a Hyrox qualifier.
So essentially a Mud Guts and Glory, but for Hyrox.
Yeah, I think the UFC Performance Institute, the Apex, something like that. You're going to sit there at this one place and there are no races. You just show up and you run a time trial. Right. And that is your Elite 15. It is your region leaderboard. If in this solves the ability of I can't fly to races to do this or socioeconomic or whatever. Spend $250, fly there, run your time, and if you get that, that's your golden ticket into any regional or open race. You proved your time. You can go race. But if you can't get to other races other than one, this is your ticket in. That way, Hyrox can have their leaderboard of times. You have this pristine, non-changing course. It can even be run on manual treadmills. It could be a super small footprint. It's just one location per region where you can qualify in if you can't find another way to get to races. All right. So we have these tent post areas where anyone can come at any time and put up their time.
Do you have to put a new time up every year? Does it carry over a period?
No, this is a backup plan. So what my season is predicated around is also removing the nonsensical issue of having not enough races for people to qualify through on, weird roll downs, and North Americans winning European Championship. We're going to give Hyrox what they want, which is opens. So every single region will have an open, the Australian Open, the US Open. We'll probably have the European Open. That might even have to have 3 different opens there, but it's going to be like a ITU or F1 series where there are big headlining events throughout the year. And all you have to do is go top 3 and you have punched your ticket to Worlds. That's it. You can go there. The only qualification to get in is last year's performance allows you to get into these big events, having a spectacular time that's in the top like 5 or whatever at the Performance Institute, or winning any local race. If you can win a race, you can get to a big one. So time can get you in, last year's performance can qualify you in, or winning a race can get you in. But the only path to Worlds is top 3 at an open throughout the year or at the true national championships or regional championships that are held at the end of the season, 4 to 6 weeks out from Worlds. So you would have like 6 to 8 opens throughout the year. So you have all these spots that are going to be there, but you're not going to have, 18 to 24 qualifiers because there is no roll down. These are golden ticket podium spots. If Lauren and Meg want to go to every single one and go 1-2, then there is one available at every race. That's just what this is. There is no roll down. So you're going to fill about half your slots for World Championship based off that. And then North American Championship, it's just passport based. We're trying to find who the best in North America is, who the best in Europe is, who the best in, well, probably Spain should have their own because they're like this weird entity, who the best in Australia, all that. And those qualify automatic top 5 spots through. You can get to these big races by running a fast time or winning a race, but you can only get to Worlds by racing your way in.
So how many spots are you giving to World Championships? Sounds like a lot.
Well, in theory, there could be up to 29 or 30 spots available. Yes.
Because it's all regional. You have to qualify at your regional championship.
And you're given
or
5
your
spots
golden
per region.
tickets, or your golden ticket at an open.
So 5 spots per region plus golden tickets.
Correct. But there's
That's
no
like
roll
top
down
tickets.
at any of these.
No
roll down.
Okay.
This
Okay,
is
that-
going to be one of those that's inherently unfair to the people who say, I just can't get there and race, but you have 7 to 10 opportunities to do it. And then, so we have 4 to 6 weeks out from Worlds, you have your regional championship that is only your nation's. You're not going to have a European champion of fitness in the United States, but then there is a last chance qualifier.
Don't worry, we didn't let it happen. We didn't let that happen.
That's right.
Nice.
So in between regionals and Worlds, there's a last chance qualifier. And that is open for whoever thinks that they are Rich Ryan. I should be there, but I've been screwed over by the man. You
Damn
show
right.
up and you race your way in. And however many spots are deemed necessary, it will be available there. Now, I believe that racing your way in is enough. You've proved right there you can race your way in, but I'm also interested in a cut down race there. Let's say you have your Elite 11 you allow into this race. Every station, there is one less implement available.
This is cool.
So by the time you get down, there's only 3 people. There are only 3 wall
Three
balls
wall
available,
balls.
and you're out. So you have to prove that you can race in high stakes pressure into the World Championship.
What
All
if
right, we're
you're
getting a little off
closer,
the
though?
rails with this. So there are 11 ski ergs, there are 10 sled push, 9 sled pull, 8 burpee broad jump lanes. You got to race aggressively like you're going to have to do in a World Championship. You have to prove your championship medal because we've already said you didn't make it, but maybe you think you're good. Show us. I can concede that spot, but a last chance qualifier for anyone who thinks that they're going to do the Tom Hogan approach. I just want one more swing at this thing. But
that's
still,
for the
you
last
can
chance
only-
qualifier.
I
Yep.
dig that last chance qualifier.
That's a fun
pretty
last
cool.
chance qualifier.
And if you wanted to, I'd be willing to push the implements being removed until after sled push. Allow everyone to get to sled push because really that's Hyrox.
Sled
Starts
pull,
with a push.
sled pull has one less. Yeah.
So
okay.
pull, you remove one. And now
Yeah.
last person in, you're out. Like if you can't get yourself into a race of the last chance people, you don't belong at World Championships.
That
So
would
like
you
it.
have your golden tickets, you have your golden ticket for top 5 at regionals, and then a last chance qualifier. And for all the time trialers out there, you could get into any one of those events by running one fast controlled decamile type thing at the Institute.
I don't know, Bracken, just on your elimination thing real quick, that would have taken away the Kent getting passed by Tobias at the end of it, for instance. If there are only 3 wall balls right there, like that.
We could have 5 or 4, whatever.
Toby
it
should
is.
have picked. He got to start earlier.
Maybe we have
It's
15
true.
people in and end with 5. But Toby will never win World Championships that way.
He's won one though.
Not that way. He
He
was
was-
leading after burpee
After
broad
burpee
jump.
broad
You're just
jumps.
taking
That's
out-
true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah,
But-
maybe you have 5 and you count back from there.
Well,
But
this is
That had more to
for.
do with.
Point
I
is,
will
you have to
argue
race your way.
that had more to do with the fields killing each other than Tobias straying from his usual strategy.
Yeah.
And Hunter wasn't in Hunter fitness.
No, Hunter was already having issues at the sled push. So
Yeah.
It
It
So
was
was-
to
still won the race.
to recount here, You can only race regional championships at your region, and they happen 4 to 6 weeks out from world championships. Then Hyrox gets their big mixing meetings of the power people throughout in this open series of races throughout. Anyone can travel anywhere, and there are 3 qualifications to get there. Last year's performances, you can grandfather in with a world championship or regional or top 15 time, your Performance Institute time, or winning any local race. If you win, you're in, and maybe you call it a podium in, so that you get good fields. And all of this is predicated around making bigger field size. Obviously, I don't see any reason why. Like, I don't know if Jack or Dave said it. If you know in advance that these are big events, World Championship, Australian Open, then you set up, because time doesn't matter. You can set up grid style and have 30 entrants if you want. You can set it up in advance and make the logistics work. That way we don't have to worry about the best not being there. We get to generate multiple storylines. And then, yeah, for the APAC region, you're probably only going to have 5 or 8 people travel, and then you can highlight their local talent there. But World Championships might have 30 people in the race. We're not doing 2 different heats. It's nonsense. Why can't we fit 30 sleds if we do grid style? Because time doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want with the course.
They had 2 lanes apiece for the grids this year. Like, you could just, there was space.
There was
for 30.
There was room for it. I know. I thought it was crazy.
So now we don't have to try to get them to run the same number of laps. You can run 20 laps to 1,000. I could care less, because time doesn't matter. It's just racing. Yeah. Every venue will then be able to be funky. New York could do that one where they ran you outside down a parking ramp and back, and who cares? Like,
2
that's
loops.
Their thing.
Yeah.
Can you race well in that style? It lets the venues be funky and still gives Hyrox here's our best time ever been run at the Performance Institute.
So I like a lot of what you're saying. It's kind of like the cocaine bear of all plans here. You are full on crack coon. And I think, I mean, it's really hard to follow, but every time you add something, I'm like, oh yeah, that's fun too. But then I think about the overall plan and like pitching it to the public, and you're like, wow, there's just, I mean, how many paragraphs is this description going to be? Because it's
not
insane.
Tough. Like you said, you already have
still
the races
racing
there.
Still racing.
You're just putting a name, Spanish Open, on it. That's it. And whoever stands on the podium gets to go to World Championship.
My issue with this is we're trying to eliminate confusion and just make everything standardized and easy to follow. Like, I think it's fun and everything, but I think if our complaint in the past is at how crazy it's been to qualify, and like adding all these random implements makes it a little difficult.
I'm okay with adding confusion. I think it's way too simple right now. Let's muck it up. BK.
Which part's confusing or random?
Bitch.
Well, realistically, I would argue that the one issue, that the biggest issue that you'd have with this is the Performance Institute part.
No,
because
that's the best part.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I agree, it's fun. But at the same time, like, Hyrox is a business where they want people to race, like to pay entry fees to race. Like, they don't want you going to unless you're putting down like a full race entry fee at the Performance Institute, that's going into their pockets. Like, sounds like a lot of cost for them to maintain this place. While
no, it's at a gym. It's at like Marcus. Our Performance Institute could be 414. He has.
It's a legit track there. Yeah.
Only one person goes at a time. You don't need a footprint. It's just they will all be run on this one thing. So identifying new talent, having people come in, try their hand at it, trying to figure out like, listen, I'm not going to pay $1,500 to go race for a weekend, but I'd like to see could I make a team? Come on here and churn it out. It's the piece I care least about, but it satisfies Hyrox's itch for times that matter, because I think we all agree times don't matter in this. In every other sport that's time-based has a trial then to get you there. You can qualify on time to trials, but the US trials gets you to the Olympics. And so Hyrox hasn't yet glamped onto that. So this system has that. It's only trials that get you there. But if you really want to show aptitude, go pop a time off.
Because they always make the argument like, well, not all marathon courses are the same. Like, they say this all the time. And I'm like, yeah, except if I want to run in the Olympics, I go to the fast course that I know of to get myself an Olympic trials qualifier, and then I still got to go beat everybody at Olympic trials.
But it doesn't get you to the Olympics.
They don't cap it.
It doesn't get you to the Olympics.
Right. They don't
cap
it.
It gets you a seat at the dance. and now you got to go dance your way into the finals. And that's what this system does.
That's all.
I'm less
people
concerned
want is a
about
shot.
my system and more about you can get to the big races by proving you can time trial. That's fine. But you have to race your way to anything of importance, which is the World Championship.
And I think we all agree, like everyone here agrees that when it matters, like we just want to see, like, I'd rather see people who are not as talented be in the race than the people who really deserve to be there getting boxed out. I think we're all in agreement there. Like that is the way bigger issue.
Yeah. And I think that you could, like, this isn't what we'd want to do, but my guess is every single one of you would pay an extra $100 to have a pristine course in a bigger field. Like I said, Rich, you can't be there because we got to run another open wave right after you. We need to make money. But if you paid 100 extra, we'll clear the course for an extra half hour. We can have 20 extra people on the course. Well, everyone will get to run. We'd be like, all right, fine. Let me just get to Worlds. Like if they wanted to charge for a pro card to get into these races, throughout the pro card implementation or something like that, they could clear an extra wave. Like, say, all right, we don't have to run a 9:15 wave. We can start at 9:30. You guys are good to go. Like if it's truly a financial thing, every single series has ways of charging the pros to recoup some of their cost.
They'd have to. The pro waves, I was given this statistic. They make the majority of their money off of doubles, which is why there are so many doubles races, because they're basically charging a full race entry to each person.
Right, it's crazy.
So, and simultaneously, I was shocked by this number. The percentage of revenue that they get via pro wave is 3% of their revenue.
Right.
So they have like no incentive to care about pro aside from this helps
the
grow
marketing.
the sport.
That's the thing that we dealt with Spartan for years, though, is like we lose money on your wave. Like, yeah, if you go like this and say, what's your entry versus what do we pay you? Sure.
Right.
You signed a $26 million Rakuten deal and you didn't sign it because of the age groupers. So yes, I will forever accept that argument as false.
Right.
It makes
sense.
Nearsighted.
But they
CrossFit
have
games,
to go on.
I was just going to say CrossFit games, like what percent of 40 out of the hundreds of thousands of athletes who end up doing the open end up making the games, and they put all this attention on it. They're not making money off of that.
And they sell crazy amounts of sponsorship.
Well, they operate in a little different capacity in terms of making money, right? Like affiliate and also certifying coaches and stuff like that. Like they are like the CrossFit Games is almost like a completely different entity. Whereas Hyrox, the problem is like the race is also the sport, where CrossFit's more like the methodology and like the gym part. Like, so I think that's what the problem is with Spartan and Hyrox, is that like they're not.
Well, you're seeing
separated.
DECA and Hyrox now with their affiliate programs. Like,
yeah, and hopefully it'll be good
to monetize that, and
right.
that is offsetting a lot of their cost. And it's a really great funnel system for them.
And Bracken, your idea of the Hyrox Performance Institute, that's not really too different than an affiliate. Realistically, you have people qualify. They don't have a DECA Strong at a convention center, for instance, or a DECA Mile. It's based on what did you do locally. And sure, you might have some people who don't deserve it, but like the best 5 or 8 of 12, for instance, probably got there last year, regardless of maybe variances. And we saw this early on in Hyrox. Everyone was doing their simulations, and they're breaking the existing world record at the time, and obviously it turned out to not be factual and stuff. So I could see some issues with some of the timing and the judging standards, like maybe not being accurate there. But I do like the fact that you have a varying number of people end up making the world championship. It doesn't, we kind of all base it on 15 because that's their number that they've used for a while, although COVID kind of messed that up, and I think they had 20 early on. But what if some years there are 30 really good athletes and others there are 26 who might make it? Like, having that variety isn't the worst idea.
Well, we have a collection of endurance fans right here. How many people run the final of the marathon every year at the Olympics?
However many qualify.
Don't know.
How many people?
100?
Do you guys know how many make the final of a 10K for the Olympics?
Isn't it always 24?
That's what I would have guessed.
Do you know how many people qualify to the Olympics in the 10K?
No,
not a ton.
Again, I would guess it's like closer.
So
to
my
like
point
80.
is, the number doesn't matter. It doesn't change the
doesn't.
battle at the front, but the size of the crowd actually lends legitimacy to the front people breaking away.
I agree.
We think we only have to have 15. because the best of the best. Well, best of the best is subjective. But what it does is when people are getting pulled away from by the top 5, it shows how crazy good they are. So I don't see an issue with having 30 or 50. Like 50 would be chaos. But like if you had a big field,
start would be nuts.
why not? Like, I don't see why we can't have 20, 25 people at the world championship.
50 athletes who all think they have a shot to win would be an insane first.
Need to be like outdoors.
Think of other sports though. The NBA qualifies people. More people make the playoffs than don't. In the NFL, you'll have teams with losing records make the playoffs. Our sport, we're trying to figure out how can we get these people who have made regional podiums in world top 5s to worlds. And other sports are like, you think we can squeeze another team or two into the playoffs, even though they have a. So we're having a weird reaction to how many people to allow in. World Championship should have a few people that may not deserve to be there, rather than a few people who deserve to be there and aren't.
Completely agree.
Totally this is something that kind of Marcus brought up in the beginning. It's like, oh well, they're worried about the costs associated with bringing people on. It's like just don't fucking do that. Just like don't like try to make this a spectacle. Don't swag them out. Don't pay for their hotels. It's
we've all been saying it.
Who cares? Like
I could do without the backpack and the t-shirt. You know, like don't need it.
Right.
Don't need the pair of Pumas. Like whatever. Like, but
I do like Pumas though. BK. Pro Puma.
I do have one more thing I was curious about from systems. And this is going to sound like it's coming from a selfish place, but it isn't. It's actually genuine curiosity. What are your all's thoughts on legacy bids to certain races, particularly under the current system?
BK had it in his. You have legacy bids in your system, right? Bracken?
Yeah, like Spartan had the World Championship clause where you're qualified for life. I think that's ridiculous because our sport requires too fine of a fitness to carry over. But at the very least, the year before, like just from a female perspective, if Lauren goes off and gives birth and comes back and doesn't have time because she misses a whole season, Lauren didn't take last at World Championships 8 months pregnant. So without a qualifier, we all know Lauren still deserves to be there. I think a minimum 24 months. I'm sorry, a minimum 12. I think you can go up to 24 in certain cases, but I think it's easy to say, what'd you do last year? Like, Rich, you were top 5 at Worlds. We're going to allow you into North American Championship. Or you were 7. That's right.
He was 7.
Wax that ass.
Cut off.
Yeah, I think a year is clean and easy. Why not? It may not get you everything you need in the world, but at least gives you your freebie into the way to get there. Like for you, Dave, if you needed to get to an open, it's like, well, you won North American champs. We'll get you to the open. Now prove it by qualifying.
Right. Not to Worlds. Not to Worlds.
Lauren, you missed.
I wouldn't want to bid to Worlds without earning it. But like, for example, under the current system, I'm the defending North American champion. The North American championships are in Washington, D.C., 1 mile from my gym. And I could theoretically be told you can't run in this race.
Yeah, like, no doubt.
That's insane to me.
Like, and by the time in the season where that is, like, that's not out of the question with how many Spanish races are going to be at that time, you know?
Yeah. Well, like you're on the East Coast, so it's easy for Europe to travel to.
Mm-hmm.
So they can bump you out also.
Yeah, that should be another. They should make the regional championship in LA so they can not come.
Yeah. For any series, the first race of the year has to rely on last year to seed it. So it should be no different for the first championship of the year. If there's not a big enough, like whoever's earned it that year, you're in. But now we have 7 spots to fill, and now we take the next 7 resumes. We're not going to go back to like Berlin, but we'll go back to Manchester or to Chicago.
I hope it's not Manchester.
Yeah, your legacy is tarnished.
It's not good.
All right, guys.
Even that, you would say he was in the World Championship last year.
Right. You can get your way into some open or regional or whatever language we want to use around it. Guys, I think we did a good job. I had the moderator response to and Billy Madison written down and ready to uncork. May God have mercy on your soul. And I was ready to hit Bracken with it, but it was pretty good. Wasn't that bad. No one deserved that. We are now dumber.
Are you going to go Tony Reale now and like assess points? Or
who won?
Not the whole show.
All right, let's see who wins here. Where's that wheel of names? Just break that out.
You have to do the paper throw also at the camera.
Yeah, I got some paper. I wrote a bunch of stuff down. I don't know. I think we all did well. I'm picking Bracken. Bracken wins. Nice job, Bracken.
Wow, you guys stuck to reality.
Dude was out there. He was out in outer space. It's like we're gonna make a freaking institute on the moon. I was like, this is amazing. I would go. I would.
Yeah, and if
race
it's
on
in
the
a
moon.
vacuum, let it happen.
Yeah.
I was picturing a 1,000-meter track at your institute, though.
Why not?
Just one big. I like that all weather 1,000-meter
what
track.
this would do,
Sexy.
I like
what this
that.
would do is like Marcus would know one guy in his gym is like he should be at a race. Or Dave, we just saw it. David had one of his boys show up and Eric just rolled. But like at some point, David knew what he could do before Eric could get into a championship. And you could say, hey, we're just going to send you to the institute or run our time trial here. And now you at least have a wild card into the next open race.
Yeah, because we're trying to figure out how to get Eric into one of these races, and we just don't.
And every gym has that guy or girl, right? Everyone's like, this is our resident monster. They should do this thing, but they're not going to invest $1,500. Can we get them in somehow? And right now it's no. Back in the day with Spartan, you just messaged Coble. I've got this buddy. He's a 29-minute 10K guy. He's been running trails. Let him in. He's like, all right, you're in. We don't have something like that for Hyrox right now. And the sport's not big enough to not need it.
Yeah. All right. Nice job, Bracken. You take that W. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Agree to disagree.
Respectfully,
the
I'd like to invite
guy.
Jack to suck it. Marcus, we're now 1-1.
Yeah.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it. What is that what Dylan said?
Put that in your butt and smoke it. I like
He
that.
said put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Put that right in your butt and smoke it, Jack.
That's a new one.
All right. What else we got to plug? We've got post game. We got Davey. You got some online stuff?
Yeah, I mean, come train with me, Magida Peak Performance. You want to come hit a podium, get better. Online training, man. Do some good coaching.
There you go, Marcus. What we got from you? Anything? Any articles you're cooking up over for?
I got some good ones coming. Hybrid Fitness Media.
Anything that makes any sense written on that platform comes from Marcus.
That's what I tell my wife. She asks, "What do you do on there?" I say, "If it's well written, it's me."
if it is expert analysis.
Matt is not going to be thrilled if he's still listening.
Like he doesn't know. He knows. BK, what do you got? You got running public stuff?
Yeah, we always got running public stuff.
Always.
There is no cheaper, better training platform in the universe than the running public online training plan. There's not. It's like 90% of what any coach in this world could give you for $19 a month. You can't beat that.
Not bad. That's not bad. What
I would put our online coaching non-personalized plans up against like probably 95% of the personalized coaching in this sport.
I thought you were gonna say on this podcast. I'm about to fucking
3 out of 5.
Yeah, we're about to throw hands.
about to hit it.
Also, shout out to John Loesch, who was my completely random doubles partner in New York, taking a podium spot there. This dude, not a traditional athlete of any kind, tough as nails.
You gonna try to cop a podium bonus for that? Are you gonna give
Almost
yourself
try.
podium bonuses from post game? I think that's smart.
It's a good idea.
That's a great up there, just chugging, doing shoeies up there. What do you got on? Who you got on the podcast this week, Bracken? You got stuff?
I don't even know. Kirk's fully in charge of guests at this point. I was out. I was in the woods all weekend. No service. I'm just
It's just like
first thing I did this week now is this.
Nice.
So I just have a list of messages to get to afterwards.
You look tan.
Jacked and tan.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of jacked, what's up, dude? What do you got going on this week, Jack?
2 rehab sessions on my knee. I think I'm doing leg press, so that would be exciting being able to do that at the physical therapist's office. So
Leg press?
progressing nicely.
Strong.
How's it
Yeah, I
feel?
got it. I mean, I'm okay at this point. He said I'm coming along better than he'd expect an average person to do in physical therapy. He's helped, like my friend Lacey, for instance. She tore her ACL, and he's got a running background, and this is the same guy who helped her recover. So I put a lot of trust in this guy, and he's like, you're gonna be a lot stronger than you realize. The tough thing is waiting for the bone to actually get healed and not be fractured anymore. So I'm probably going to be able to do stuff I would be able to if the bone wasn't messed up ahead of schedule, but it's probably realistically like Halloween or so till I'm running again.
Did you try that folding chair on the skier technique I was telling you about?
No, I didn't, but I did I haven't gone up to Tamara's yet, but I'll do that next time because it'll actually fit on the frame. We only had a box at that point.
Yeah,
like
get the folding chair, man. Game changer.
Some camping stuff. Don't even got to
Yeah.
put it away.
Yep. But yeah, skateboard on a rower. Anybody has a knee injury, can't run, do that. It's fantastic.
Interesting.
Roller skates look cooler.
Jack's
John Albin and Zuzana Kotsamova roller skate. So
No, I'm saying a roller skate on that foot instead of the.
no, that thing's not. I'm not taking my chances with rollerblades.
Jack's
anymore.
scarred, man. You can't put those
Yeah.
things on his feet.
Wait,
Literally.
were you on skates or blades?
Inline.
Arms
Not-
only
not-
assault
not
bikes?
blades, jerk.
What kind of wattage you hitting on that arms only assault bike? You
I
in the
did.
350s?
I'm doing one-legged on it.
Oh,
PT, he's done a study, pointed out other studies. Jarrett Newby sent me some stuff that it's actually okay to overload your hurt leg because you have less atrophy on the bad one. The same thing if you have a bad arm, if you have a broken right arm, you're doing curls with your left or whatever, it'll actually prevent the muscle atrophy from being as high in your bad limb.
interesting.
So
Sounds like voodoo.
look it up. Got published
Nope.
studies.
Not gonna.
Keep fighting the good fight, Jack.
But yeah, no, I'm doing 72, 73 RPMs for like a minute in a row on the air bike with one leg. It sucks.
It's rolling.
Oh, it's moving.
Not a Schwinn.
Nope.
All right. I have a podcast with Kent that released today. We might make it a little bit reoccurring. I got some names. I want to run past you what we might call this thing. Hybrid Fitness Racing Private. What do we think about that one?
No.
I don't get it.
You don't get it? How about the KR Corral?
I'm leaning towards that already.
You like that one? All right. We're
I would go
workshopping.
RK though.
Wait, hybrid fitness racing private,
Yeah.
like running public?
No.
Never mind.
The KR, it's so it's Kent Ryan. That's what you're going for there.
The KR
Bracken
Corral.
did have the KB Corral. That was his
So
initial name.
He made
for-
fun of both of mine. KB Corral and Running Public.
We can't go RK Corral because then that could just specifically be Ryan Kent, and that shit ain't happening. I'm
I would
getting
just
rid
go
of-
with the
Mile
hybrid
hybrid
public.
fitness.
What was it?
Mile hybrid fitness. I already listened to it.
Oh, you're
was
already
my
on
favorite.
that? My guy. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Is that what it's going? Is that what it's going to be?
We're not sure. We're workshopping names.
I like that. That's your best one so far.
Better than the Hybrid Fitness Racing Private?
I think
Okay.
so.
Whatever. All right, squad. Thanks to everybody for making this happen. I'm surprised we did get everybody on the same time. This was fun. Right? We had fun.
Good
All right,
work,
squad.
everybody.
We'll talk to you next time.
Don't forget